Okay, whenever you're ready, Tommy.
Okay. Today is April the 12th, 2011, and it is about 2:45 in the afternoon. And today we're interviewing Raymond and Don Eagleburger. They're brothers. That is RaymondEagleburger. For Raymond, and Don is DonEagleburger.
Lebur. Eagleburger.
Lebur.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ger.
Ger. And we're in Springfield, Missouri, at Raymond's home, and we're going to interview them. Raymond had a Phillips 66 gas station on Kearney Street, which was Route 66, and for a number of years. And Don worked for MoDOT for a number of years. So we'll start off by asking Raymond, when did you build the station and start it there?
I don't know. It's sometime around 1950.
And you were there until when?
About 20 years.
There till the early 70s then.
Yeah.
And it was always a Phillips station.
Yeah, it was new.
Yeah, they built it new.
How many pumps were there at the time?
3 is all.
3 pumps?
Yeah.
And how many bays did you have in the
Had 2
front?
bays.
2 bays. With a lift in both bays?
No. Lift in one
Just
bay.
in one?
Grease room and washroom.
Okay.
Later on, another bay was built to service 7-Up bottling company's trucks. So we built a bigger bay. So the 3rd bay was a big bay.
Good. So you did a lot of gas as well as the mechanic stuff then?
Yeah, quite a bit. But of course, you know, you didn't make nothing off the gas then.
What was the price of gas that you can remember back in the 50s?
Well, I think about 17.9,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there's some lower than that.
17.9.
And that's 3 cents a profit a gallon.
And you washed the windows and checked the tires and did all that
Yeah,
stuff for 17 cents a gallon.
I believe that's what it was.
And you got 3 cents profit?
Yeah,
Well, back in those days, 3 cents is, 15,
Yeah.
16%.
You better believe it.
That's great. How many guys worked for you?
anybody that you could get to work for you. Oh, generally had 3
Okay.
other than yourself.
What Art that worked for you there in the late 50s and early 60s, what was his last name?
Guthrie, Art Guthrie.
Art Guthrie. Yeah, I remember him because I traded with you then, and
Yeah.
he was working there. He's a pretty good mechanic too.
Yeah, Art was all right.
So in 70, you sold the place, you moved.
Went to work for Highland Dairy.
Okay.
I got tired of that.
I'm sure you put a lot of hours in.
7 days a week. It was 7 o'clock every morning, closed at 9.
On Sundays too, back in those days?
Sundays too.
Because there were a lot of places that weren't open on Sundays back in the 50s.
I don't know about that, but they was up there because we had to service 7-Up trucks on the weekends, wash them and
Wow.
lubricate.
It's a lot of work.
That was quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, when you went to work for Highland, you went to work there where they service their trucks and everything there around on National Street, didn't you?
No, it was over on Howard and Kearney.
Oh, okay, where that station was over there.
Tidal station, I believe it was.
Yeah, and then later years
That's
it was
where,
a DX.
But Highland owned that, see, they bought that. wasn't servicing their own trucks then. I mean, they was having it done, and when I went to work for them, I opened that station down there only to Highland.
That was their service center
Yeah,
then.
right. And then, of course, they bought that 7-Up building, and they moved their trucks and garage up there. They didn't do no mechanical work down there. It's just gas and oil wash.
And then you said that you owned the Phillips station up there at the corner of Dale and National then.
Yeah, me and Martin Beasley went partners on that. And we run that till they got that new station built down there.
So when was that you opened that station? In the 70s?
Oh no, it was earlier than that. It was right after, a little bit after I got out of the service in 45.
Oh, so that station came first?
That little station that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Right. You said you opened a news station. I guess I'm confused.
The news station is the one that was on Kearney Street
Got
down
it.
there by his
Okay.
folks where their
Yeah,
grocery
right.
store was
Okay.
Right.
there.
Right.
And the one you had up at Dale and National had an outdoor
Lift.
lift and everything. All it had, the building
That's
was,
all it had.
the office was the only enclosed part
Right.
of it. You had to get out there in the winter to change oil
And wash cars
Car.
while Bill Dow preached to him.
yeah, he's a preacher at High Street Church.
Yeah, and High
Yeah.
Street, he come up here from Texas, you know.
Then they had a holy roller up above Howard Keener's store there on National and Dale. We used to go sneak up there and listen to the holy rollers on Sunday night.
On National and Dale.
Pam, excuse me, Tom, that's my daughter,
Yes.
Pam
Hi.
Burney.
Hi.
She's queen of the house
Oh,
with a sharp whip.
We
now-
didn't get a chance on tape to talk about your parents' store. So I know we've already heard that story a couple of times. Why don't we repeat it one more time? Your parents owned a store.
Well, my dad and his dad owned the store
Okay.
to start with.
So your dad and your uncle.
The one that faced National.
Gotcha.
Or the
Yeah.
Boulevard.
And when they built 44 Highway,
it's not the same picture.
they changed that store building from facing to National or the Boulevard.
Okay.
That's what we call it.
What was the name of that store?
Eagleburger's grocery store.
And I think you told me, Don, that you lived in, your father and grandparents lived in the other half of the store?
We did it one time, yeah.
Okay. So the whole building was store and house?
Yes.
Okay.
And there was a barber shop there in the front too.
Who did the barbering?
I don't know who the barber was.
And when did you close that down? When did that happen? That had to be moved or?
Just before they paved Kearney Street and made it Route 66.
Okay.
Which would have been 1935.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
6.
Wow.
That's when they built that on from Glenstone
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, right.
And prior to that, my grandmother owned 3 acres there on what's East 24th Street now, and it came down and circled around
Yeah.
on the south side of her house there, or her land
Yeah.
there at Weller and East 24th Street it
Yeah.
is now, and went back out, and they cut that, left a little island in there
Yeah.
across from her when they
Well,
paved
yeah.
all of that.
Well, Route 66, when it first came in about 3 different places,
Yeah.
you know.
First, it came in,
For-
went over 125 and
Yeah.
went to
Division
East Division
Street.
Street and
Right.
came in. And it was only there about a year and a half.
Yeah, then turned to Glenstone
Stone.
Avenue,
Yeah.
south onto St. Louis Street, west through the square and on out. Then historic Route 66 it was in 1928, entered Springfield from Stratford on Kearney Street. That's in 1928, and it turned south on Glenstone to St. Louis, then west through the public square to Chestnut Expressway. And then bypass Route 66 was in 1935. That was Kearney Street.
And then the
Right.
west bypass they call the
Yeah, I entered
North,
Springfield
south.
on Kearney and across Glenstone and continued to the west bypass.
Pass.
Right. Then we went south to Chestnut Expressway. And then the city Route 66, when it was in 1960s, entered the town on Kearney and then turned south on Glenstone, then west on Chestnut Expressway. And that was the city route then, but that was in 1960s.
It's when they finally opened Chestnut Street up,
Yeah.
and it wasn't there very long. But 70, they took all that out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, the signage.
Yeah, it took all the signs
66 went out of existence.
What else? Yeah.
So Don, before you worked for MoDOT, did you work at other places that were on the old Route 66?
No, I started after I got out of the service and taught school for a year down at Urbana, and then came back up and worked at a couple places on Commercial Street, and then went to work for Colonial Bakery, ran a bread route, and finally got to be supervisor for them. And they sent me all over the country and finally fired me. I came back home, and I wasn't satisfied with getting fired. Then I went out to El Paso, Texas, and went to work for them out there. And then they sent me on to Memphis and made me a sales manager in Paducah, Kentucky, and then fired me again after I got to Louisville, Kentucky.
But they kept rehiring you, so that was good.
That was the last time they hired me. I finally got back to Springfield and went to work for the highway department.
There you go.
Right.
And what kind of experiences with the highway department did you have with the old route, or did you have any?
Nothing with the old
Okay,
route.
okay.
No.
But now you and my uncle Virgil Smith, I was talking about, you were involved with buying the right of way for New 65 from Springfield.
I got run off lots of properties.
Did you get fired again?
Huh?
Did you get fired again?
No,
No.
they didn't.
Well, the people who owned the property run him off.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Got fired at maybe.
Well, the guy come at me with a shotgun.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
I didn't tarry around to see what he was going to do with it. I left.
Didn't
And then
argue
I
the
called him
point.
and told him, and he invited me back. So it was a great experience, and lived it. I loved every minute of it.
So how many miles did you have to buy up for that portion of 65?
We bought from just outside of Springfield here all the way to beyond Branson.
Wow.
That was nothing but hills and trees down through there. Because except 66 kept coming around and hitting it every once in a while. Not 66, but what was it? down there?
65?
65, yeah. So,
Original 65 even went clear over to Highlandville
yeah.
and back around, and it
Yeah.
wandered a bunch down.
It's a pretty
through
straight
there.
line now.
And from Springfield, it ran down through Galloway and on down through there.
Ozark.
Yeah, Ozark, made all the towns, you know. And just a great time to be alive, living it.
It wasn't complicated with all them computers and stuff.
No.
Didn't know how to use the
didn't have much
telephone.
to use.
I was someplace the other day at a flea market, and there was a woman in there with her grandson, and he wasn't young. I mean, he looked like he was probably 10, 11, 12 years old. And she was trying to explain to him how a rotary phone works. And I was listening, and the kid did not understand turning. He just couldn't. He thought she just pushed the buttons in the hole.
Yeah.
He could not comprehend the turning of the dial. And I thought, that's, he just didn't understand it. And all. You said your mom and dad owned the grocery store there, and they sold it in. When did they sell? After they rebuilt the store there facing
After
Kearney
Dad
Street.
died.
Well, I think he means,
when did they get rid of the grocery business?
During the war.
in 40, well, it was during the war when they got rid of it, because we come home, they had moved and sold out to R.C. Claxton.
Yeah.
And that was in
44.
44, 45.
Yeah.
So I'd say they sold out probably sometime in 44. Really.
So this all happened while you guys were gone.
Yeah.
Were you guys in Europe,
He was-
Pacific?
He was in the European, it's all through the Battle of the Bulge and everything.
My father was a POW in the Battle of the Bulge.
Was he?
Yeah. He has that license plate on his car. He's still driving. His license plate's got a POW license plate. He was one of the last troops over. He was in a replacement unit
Yeah.
and got captured within 6-7 weeks of coming, and fortunately lived through all that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, obviously.
We had an older brother, Gerald, who was aboard the U.S. Wisconsin, I believe it was, USS Wisconsin battleship. He was in the South Pacific. I got my commission, and they sent me to the South Pacific. I was one of the lucky guys. We were headed for Okinawa. They were killing Marines like flies then, and we had a submarine scare, and they ran us into Pearl Harbor. Well, about that time, the guys from Iwo Jima were come back, and they were all shot up. Didn't have full complement, so they took half my bunch and sent them on to Okinawa, and sent half of them to the guys back from Iwo Jima on the Big Island there in Hawaii, and that's where they sent me. And was I ever glad?
I'm sure you were.
Because they were killing them like flies where those other guys went, and they killed. We lost a lot. I lost a lot of friends and that. And we
They
were.
sent me to hell and back.
Yeah,
that's
Just
right.
about.
That's right.
That's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
We were combat loaded.
So all that stuff happens, and then you move back home, and your home has changed.
Yeah.
Your home has been
Oh,
moved.
yeah. Well, let's see, I got married while I was in the service, and my older brother did too. And when did you get married up in Dale Street
46.
Church, didn't you?
Yeah.
In the old church.
Yeah, the old building.
One that sat there right on the street.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Tom knows about that.
Mm-hmm.
That church. His dad, you just lived up on Kearney there
Yeah.
with Charlie Hoffman's, and Tracy's run a grocery store right
Yeah.
there by you. Your
Then,
mother taught down at Robinson, did she?
Yeah. And then Messerly's grocery store was
Oh,
across
yeah.
on the other
Yeah.
side
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
And
On the south side there at Rogers and between Rogers and Fremont in
Yeah.
there.
You know, there's a first drive-in on up there at Camel's Pasture. You're talking about Camel 66. They had all that pasture there at Fremont. And
Yeah.
Kearney
Had
Street.
Fisher's High Boy.
That's what I was trying to think about. That's the first Fisher's High Boy at Springfield.
Yeah. And then they had, I worked for her, a woman by the name of Faye Reeves on Faye's Root Beer Stand up there at Delaware and Kearney
Yeah,
Street.
Johnny McNeil run that for a long time. And that
Yeah.
other old man I was trying to tell you about was Francis Doolin, and owned all that country line, you know.
Yeah.
Built and his boy built a lot of golf courses at that time, and he'd take off in an old tractor and trailer and a bulldozer and go to Texas, ride a motorcycle, get him a place to stay down there. He built, I don't know how many golf courses.
Did he build Grandview out there?
I don't know, Tom, whether he had anything to do with that or not.
McClernand's farm is where Grandview is.
Who? What was the name?
McClernan
McClernan?
owned that. all
Like the
right.
street that runs through there, McClernan
yeah,
Street.
Yeah, and they lived right down there on McClernan Street. But he sold that all to the city, and they built a golf course.
course.
That was a farm
Yeah.
over there. McClernand's farm. Don't you remember that?
McClernan?
Yeah,
Sure. It's right up here,
yeah.
Did
about 2 blocks.
you was talking about Lurby's Court? Now they own a lot of. Well, they still own a lot of property out there along Kearney Street.
Larry owned.
Lurby Properties. They've got, and the two. Well, the younger Lurby, I guess it'd be his aunts. Was it Carl Lurby?
Yeah.
He
Carl.
had 2 sisters, and they still own that ground out there where that Holiday Drive-In Theater was.
Right.
All
Doc
of that
Miller
in
and
there.
his brother owned a lot of that.
Who?
21 Nightclub. Remember that?
Yeah.
There was a lot of those places out
Oh,
there.
wasn't there a place out there they called Doc's?
Doc.
That's Doc Miller.
Yeah.
Doc, he had a different woman every other night. He ran that 21 Club.
Oh, they had a bunch of places. Rock Village Court, and the
Yeah,
Satellite
that was
Motel,
there on the corner of.
Springfield Motor Court.
That was the Claxton boys' place there, like from up at Competition. Did you done any work up there on this sort of thing? But Claxton,
Yeah.
they owned that, well, it was a hotel. They didn't own it. They run the cafe there on Kearney and Glenstone.
Stone. At the Rock Village
Yeah,
Court.
yeah, Rock Village Court.
And Doc's Place, they call it. You're always welcome at Doc's Place.
Till your
It
money
was a
run
truck
out.
stop cafe, is
Yeah.
what it was.
So,
And it was originally the Anchor. You remember the Anchor out there on 66?
I don't
You're
really
not
remember.
old enough, Tom.
No, that was a big dance place, boy, the Anchor.
It was on out east then.
Yeah, just out there a little way.
But there's a grocery store, you know, on every corner, a little old grocery store of
Yeah.
some kind. Remember that little brick building up there on, Rob Glover owned it. Glover's
Yeah.
Market.
On High Street.
Yeah, on High Street.
Yeah, Glover's Market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she,
Just up
well,
there.
they went to Dale Street.
Yeah.
And she lived, Phoebe Nan lived
Yeah.
there on Prospect,
Yeah.
just north of that.
Yeah.
Right?
And then that went over on Dale Street. Started down there on the corner of Dale Dashel with Howard Keener's, and he went on up to Lloyd Snyder's place. He was on Dale Street up about Weller, someplace up there. He
Yeah,
built
Snyder.
this-
His boy was Terry.
I
Went
don't
to school
know,
with- Yeah,
know his boy.
Snyder. I went to school with his boy
but
Terry.
he built this addition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah, he used to live right down up
Well,
there.
around
yeah,
here.
next
Delaware,
street.
down
Yeah,
there on the corner. He was a hungry old coot.
yeah, his boy, and then Rex.
Yeah.
you know, Steve Snyder's
Yeah,
old
store up here on National.
You could buy boots and shoes and stuff there.
And then
Well, up till they closed it I mean,
yeah.
he sold that or something, and the people just took it over and run that, and they had all kinds of old stuff in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh,
it
yeah.
was
Right.
a lot of things you wouldn't even think about.
There was that Shaler had that little store on it.
Yeah, he had the gas station, a little bit of gas station. That's the guy who used to have the strawberry patch out. To go pick strawberries.
Yeah.
John Bruner was on one corner, and that old boy that's down there with Lloyd Cornell.
Yeah,
You mentioned him. He still gets around.
yeah.
Saw him Sunday.
I saw him. I went out there to Doling Park to the senior deal.
Yeah.
Me and the wife went out there, and Lloyd was in there and sitting there talking. I went over and talked to him a few minutes.
Oh yeah.
Pool table in that place is the busiest thing there. They
Yeah,
was lined up around the benches
Yeah,
there,
watching.
watching and waiting to play.
Waiting for somebody to lose.
He's got something wrong with one of his legs, and he won't hardly talk about it. And I think it's pretty not such good news.
He don't walk like he used to, 'cause I know after he retired and I'd go to work, I'd see him walking on Kearney Street every day. He'd be walking up and either going or coming back. And after I retired, I didn't see him, and I talked to Kenny, the oldest boy, and he said, "Hey, his dad about give up walking." He didn't really give a reason. He just said he'd
Yeah, well,
give
that's
it
what
up.
he told me Sunday, and I knew this before. And I said, "You always have coffee with him," and he goes to Sunday school, and I kind of skip out. He said, I asked him one day, I asked him Sunday. I said, "Lloyd, how you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm not doing as good as I let on." And he got up then and seemed like he's kind of gamey in his right side.
Well, like I say, the old boy it calls when you get old the golden years. Poor old boy was colorblind.
Amen.
That's about true.
But yeah, they now your folks moved down there to on National
Yeah. After Dad.
at
after
Talmadge.
After they sold the
They're
store.
on the southwest corner, wasn't it?
Bill Swinney, you remember him?
Yeah.
He lived on that corner, see, right there,
Talmadge.
of Talmadge, and I forget what that girl's name was that lived in the house Dad and Mom bought. They were twins. But anyway, what was it? I can't think of it. You get that damn Parkinson's disease, you might as well stick your head in a rain barrel.
The only place I remembered Bill and Georgia Sweeney living was out there at Dickerson Park
Dickerson
Zoo.
Park
Yeah.
in the zoo.
Yeah,
Park.
they moved out there when Bill got that
Job looking after the
Yeah.
zoo.
Zoo, yeah.
They
Well,
lived,
that's a WPA job.
they lived upstairs, I think, there in the
Yeah, they lived upstairs.
in that
in
main
that
building.
Main building, yeah.
yeah. It's where they kept
What do you call it?
the reptile house, where they
Reptile
kept the
house,
snakes and
Yeah.
everything.
Somebody said they had that old line in that thing that they cut out of that tree trunk. A
Yeah.
great, enormous tree trunk. Somebody had carved a line on the inside and no door, nothing onto it. Just all, just like any kind of a pen, keep something in, but didn't have no doors or nothing like that in.
He just reached in and carved it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just started through and
I mean,
left
Lord, that stump of that tree had to be
it's 4
no
foot
telling
or
what,
bigger
I mean,
across.
Wide, yeah.
One of his boys got killed in the war. He was a bus. You remember Bus?
He was a pilot, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Never did find him. Went down on a training session.
What did he go down? I was trying to remember. My folks talked about that. did he go down in the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, somewhere.
Down there off the
Down in
coast of
there,
Florida.
Right. I thought it was Texas.
May have been. I couldn't remember. I was just a
They
kid.
never did find his plane.
plane or
They
anything.
Search and search. Never did find the plane or anything else. His bodies never did show up.
They had the old 8 Mile Road District, if you remember that, up there almost to Kearney Street on National, where they kept the 8 Mile Road District. And
Yeah.
all their machinery in there where Highland Dairy is now.
Yeah, well, that's what become Greene County Highway Department.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were just right there in
Yeah.
that big old long building there on the west side of National, just around the corner from Kearney Street there. They was there, what, till the early 60s, I think.
I couldn't tell you. I know they could go up there and catch them little pigeons, you know, in that old big barn and sell them to the colored folks for 25 cents a piece.
Now they make cashewed chicken out of them.
Yeah. Hard to beat that.
But you remembered gas being 17
Yeah.
nine.
Yeah.
A lot of 19.9.
Oh yeah. Cheapest I ever remember it was in a gas war, and it got down to, I think, 14.9's the cheapest I ever give for it. Now it goes up more than that every few days.
Yeah, they're talking about $5 gas here. I heard today somewhere.
Yeah, and it was, like we said, 17.9, and you would wash the windows
That's
and
right.
air the tires and check the oil and
Did Phillips 66 own the station and you leased it, or did you own the property?
They built it.
They built it.
Yeah. And in turn, we leased it by paying for gas.
Okay.
And then when it got paid for, the building become my dad's and mother's.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that wasn't a bad way of getting a business.
No, it was really a blessing.
Yeah, it really
boy.
is.
I have a brand new building, you know, and guaranteed.
And you didn't have to put any money up front? Wow. And you'd be hard pressed to find an opportunity like that
Yeah,
today,
right.
where somebody else is putting all their money into it. Yeah, you can't even build a McDonald's or get a McDonald's without putting your own $1 million in it.
Huh.
Did you guys serve it? Did you have a pop machine or in the service station?
Yeah, it seemed like to me we had a pop machine of some kind, or a lidded one with ice in it. There was an ice house right there behind that. Or my dad's grocery store, or Grandpa's grocery store, was the next building there. Where that set 'em up is an ice plant in there.
Yeah, there was.
Old Will Herbert lived up on National, run it. More Spencer worked there.
Yeah, yeah.
Pull them 300-pound, made ice in 300-pound chuck. And let them tank down with a brine in it, you know, and water. And I don't know how long it took to freeze that 300 pound, but it's a chore to pull it.
I'm
I'll
sure
tell you
it
that.
is.
Well, it was
Sure it
just
is.
a chain hoist, you know.
Yeah.
Then scooted it around into a cooler where they kept it.
then did they run it through a kind of a saw type thing to score it where they could
I don't know, Tom.
chip off the
They had to do
blocks.
something because I know what you're talking about. You could get a 25-pound
and-
chuck.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know
People used to keep, you know, a sign up in their window
Yeah.
if they wanted 10-pound or 8-pound or
Yeah.
9-pound.
I remember this ice plant there on Chase Street.
Yeah.
Just- And I mean, up
Oh,
until
yeah,
in the
yeah.
60s and maybe early 70s, you
Yeah,
go there to
that
get crushed ice.
Yeah.
and they'd saw them big old.
Yeah.
I mean, they just score the side. It'd go through a deal and score both sides, and then the guy'd flip it over and score it again, and then he'd just take an ice pick and just chip it, and that thing would just fall off of there then. And if it didn't have any crushed, he'd crush it and put it in a bag for you for a quarter.
Boy.
Now then, why?
Well, there was another ice plant right there, the tracks up on
Commercial. Yeah.
It was a bigger plant.
Oh yeah, right. You had to drive back by the
Yeah,
railroad
where
tracks.
Packers
Yeah.
is now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember that.
What else?
Well, there used to be a lot of business right there up and down Kearney Street
yeah.
in
Oh,
66.
yeah.
And a lot of it depended on highway travelers in there too.
Yeah.
Right.
You got on down there to what, East Avenue, and it was
Right.
a deep rock station in there. Who? Bill Groves owned it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Albert, and
Albert,
Bill,
Yeah.
and Ed.
Ed.
Dolly was his dad's name, and May was the mother's name.
You remember just a little after they got Kearney Street paved all the way out to the bypass out there, all the transient traffic, people were traveling in the road, you know, moving, and we got a lot of transient people come by, and whenever they'd all come in the store, and all of us kids, Dad would call us in and station us in different parts of the store. He says, if you don't, says, you're going to steal your blind. And they did anyway, and we were in there trying to watch them. And it was all that people were in mass
Just
up
moving.
and down the
Hitchhiking.
highway.
and
They,
walking.
they followed the
During the Depression you're talking
seasons, yeah.
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
but I
But they'd
remember.
come through there with some kind
Picking
of an
crops
old-
in one part of the country and then the weather
Yeah.
change, pick them in
Yeah.
another part. Yeah.
Yeah,
Migrant workers.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what.
Or they
And
leave,
some of them
leave,
didn't
leave
work.
a
Some
restroom
of them
dirty,
just
so
stealing
dirty you
away.
couldn't get in it.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
Finally, you just have to lock it up. Let them go on down the road.
I remember my folks didn't live a block off of Kearney,
yeah.
and it wasn't unusual for somebody to come to the door and
Knock on
wanting
the door.
a handout.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I mean, I wasn't a very big kid, but I remember them coming to the door looking for food and stuff. And I mean, that wasn't unusual at all.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the other day, my folks was the only one in that block that had a telephone. And everybody that lived along there would give their number.
Yeah.
And it wasn't unusual to get a call, and my mother would say, you need to go down to so-and-so and tell them that they need to come up here and call somebody. And it wasn't unusual to be 3 or 4 women sitting there in the living room, you know,
Yeah.
and they'd just be waiting to make a phone call. And kids would come and everything. Shoot, now then, they drive along talking on their cell phone, don't even pay attention to what's going on.
Oh, we finally ended up living in a house where Dink Station was. Lou Price lived in it, and Dad and Mother bought that off of Lou Price, and we ended up in there. Although we did live up on Ramsey Street a ways.
That's where he's talking about where the filling station is, where we lived.
Yeah.
Moved that house over
Oh,
that corner on up on Ramsey Street. Morris Mitchell, his dad is
Yeah.
a plumber.
Well, then my grandmother lived on one corner there of Ramsey and Kearney, and my uncle lived on the other corner. And then Matt Rowden lived on the other corner over there, and Henry Jarrett, a Negro guy, he raised hogs down there in the pasture on down north of Kearney Street on Ramsey down there. And he used to, my mother used to park me with Henry and his wife. and Henry had hogs down there in the pasture past Kearney Street, and he'd take me down there and let me ride the old sow. You know, he put me on that old sow, and I'd ride that old hog around. He'd drag me back in the evening and take me back and take me home.
Raymond was talking about Bingham's.
Yeah.
I wasn't a very big kid, and we had chickens. My dad said, I'm getting rid of the chickens. If you'll put them in your wagon and take them to Bingham's, you can have what they bring. And so, boxed them up. My mother walked with me, and we went down there, and I sold them chickens, and I remember I got $7 or $8 out of them.
Boy, you all right.
And I
Whole
got
flock
home,
of
my
'em.
mother told my dad, said, do you know what them chickens is worth? And he said, no. He said, well, you told him he could have the money, and I think it was close to $8. And he said, by gosh, if I'd known it was worth that,
I would have gone down
I'd
there.
have took them down there. Yeah. Yeah, things was a lot different back then.
Oh yeah, really.
Back when you were talking about the Four Corners, your grandmother and your uncle,
Yeah.
how many African Americans were living around that area at the time? Were they
Well,
living
several.
in a different part of town? Were they kind of mixed in?
Well,
or-
there was a lot of them out here on National. You know where the guys lived, Nat
Yeah, Nat Motley.
Motley and his family lived down there on National, but down on Ramsey Street, down Ramsey Street, all the Jarrett's lived up south of Kearney, Henry Jarrett and Valley, and they had 4 kids, and then the Negroes lived up there
Hanks.
north. Yeah, Briz Hanks
Where's Hanks?
lived up there.
And
I-
Buddy Ferguson.
Yeah, and down on National, I used to get in a fight with Junior. What was his name? Every time
Junior Hanks.
Junior Hanks and we'd get in a fight every time they'd come up there. We had a big basketball court there, just crossing all the kids around in the neighborhood and the blacks and all. We come up there and have a big basketball game. Dad put up 2 stands, you know, and goals. And man, we had, and then they all had, everybody had taws, bean flippers. You didn't flip, but you tried to flip those marbles,
Fiddly
Yeah,
flip
play
those
marbles.
marbles, and knock one out of the
Right.
ring.
Circle.
You know, if you did, you got to keep it.
Right.
We had some big games like that, and we just fight each other and everything else. But
Yeah,
somebody was always in a fight.
There was a Miss Adams that lived up there on Delaware that owned that where the Hillcrest 90 Apartments is. She
Yeah.
owned that big old piece of ground
Yeah.
in there, and she had a son that was more like my uncle's age, and I know after I got up, I'm gonna say high school and all, she'd call down there to the house if she needed groceries, or she'd call
Yeah,
like poor boy
yeah,
Yeah.
Jack Comstock order groceries,
yeah. he'd
and
go.
my dad and all knew her son, and I think he went away to the war and he didn't move back here.
Yeah.
And anyway, my dad tell me now, if she needs groceries, you go get them, or
Yeah.
go pick them up
Yeah,
and take
pick
them
'em
to
up
her.
and take 'em.
And I think I was out of high school. She
Yeah.
still lived there, and she had a big old place. And I think she passed away, and somebody bought that ground. They built that Hillcrest 90 Apartments on it.
Oh yeah. I had some big times when Dad was in the store. Most of the stores, I say, had a delivery business. You know, they'd call all their customers early in the morning and get their order, and then they'd deliver it. Well, I was delivering with my uncle. My uncle was working for Dad in the store, and Dad had just bought a brand new Buick. No, Pontiac.
Pontiac,
Pontiac.
37.
Brand new, what year?
What was it? Yeah.
37.
37, brand new 37, okay.
Yeah. And so I was delivering groceries with my uncle. And he said, I'll take these in to one house there. We drove in the driveway. And he says, you just sit here in the car. And I said, well, I thought when he took those groceries in, I'd just back that car out and turn it around for him.
I can see where this story's
I
going.
stripped every gear in that thing.
In a brand new car.
Yeah, and I knew Dad would beat me half to death.
I was gonna say, did you sit down at all that year?
Yeah. You know, I couldn't believe it. We got back in that car and it would go in one gear. We finally pushed it out in the street and we got it headed out in the right direction and it would just chug along, you know. Got there and my uncle went in and told my dad what happened. And I can still see him. He just stood there and shook his head, looked at me. And I know he wanted to kill me, but he didn't.
How old were you?
Well, old enough to deliver those groceries. I'd say what, Dink?
Well, we started a little early delivering
Yeah.
because there wasn't no policeman ever set out every corner looking for a license.
Probably 12 or 13 years
12 or
old,
13.
Yeah.
And that's the first time you had played with a shift?
Yeah. First time I'd tried to drive it.
I'd never seen an automatic.
Oh, was it an automatic?
No,
Oh, it was a
no.
stick, okay.
I say he never seen an automatic.
No, gear shift, man. I just still see that gear shifter, pong, 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 going like that.
Well, there were no gear shifts on that pig that you were riding, so that's probably why you weren't used.
Well, I hate to ask, but how old are you, Raymond?
66 or
Route 66.
Don't he wish?
86.
86.
And I'm 88.
You're older.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought you was.
I thought they were twins, so I'm glad you asked.
That's right.
Here, I'll give you a quarter.
Oh, boy. What else do we need to go over here, boy?
Well, it looks like we've covered quite a chore. I don't know why anybody would be interested in that shit, but I guess they
Be
are.
sure you get that down on tape.
It's on tape.
And be sure
Well-
you put down what he said it, I didn't.
Well, you're not going to believe this, but in probably 50 years, that'll be over in the MSU library. And there'll be somebody listening to that.
See, so much of what you gentlemen went through, no one ever wrote it down. There weren't very many pictures taken. There were no movies, televisions. And so without you telling your stories, no one's going to ever remember this stuff. And some of the stuff is interesting enough to try to remember.
Well, now they got these books over in the, the Springfield Library. It tells all about the roads and everything. And
Yeah, but everybody has their own story.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that was, in fact, I'd been trying to remember who to, I mean, me and Jerry's done lots of these interviews up and down the road.
Yeah.
And you can't tell it, but Dave's in a learning curve today. And I saw you and Helen somewhere, and I don't remember where it was. And I thought, well, Raymond would make a good interview for this because he owned a station and everything. And then you walked up, wasn't a month. You was out there at the car swap meet.
Yeah.
And you walked up and was talking to the wife, and I walked up, and after you walked off, I told her, I said, I need to get Raymond and Don Eagleburger and talk to them because they grew up right there on 66 and everything, and they'd make an excellent interview.
And you gentlemen have been. I mean, some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
For two young guys.
Your folks even owned, well, your grandparents even owned a store there and everything. So, I mean, it even went back prior to 66.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember one year they had this drought, and it was terrible. I believe it was 36. And they drove them cattle up Kearney Street, all the way from Kansas out here to the.
Oh yeah.
They was killing that beef and sending it to New York to feed the people in barrels. And Dad, he run a store, and Mom, of course, helped him. And he'd go walk to Welch Packing Company, which is right over there on Glenstone, where the viaduct is. And I believe he got $3 a cow
Good.
that he killed and
Butchered
skinned
them.
in one night. He worked
$3 for a cow on hoof.
there. Yeah.
He had to kill him, didn't he?
Well, I don't know about that now, but he worked in the lard department, and it blew up one time. And this other guy happened to be in there, and it just absolutely drove this boy nuts, and they couldn't hardly catch him because he had this grease all over him in the lard.
Hot.
Yeah, oh, boiling hot, and it killed him.
Hmm.
I don't know what his name was, or Dan Holliday was the foreman.
Yeah. As you got hair combed, they're gonna take a picture.
Yeah.
I combed mine too before we.
Both of them.
You parted them.
That's
I took out after my mother. She had a full head of hair.
well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, right. And Jack had hair, but he lost a big part of it.
Oh, now, did you have a sister?
Yeah, Mary.
She was the oldest.
She was the oldest. She's down at Monette in the
Nursing home.
nursing home down there.
She's what, 90?
She's 94.
94.
She was the oldest, 6 years older than me.
You remember them Waite boys?
Yeah,
Waite,
Wait.
Gene, and Charles.
Name sounds familiar.
Lived this second house on Ramsey, south off of Kearney, on the east side. Eugene Williams lived up there.
Now, that sounds familiar.
Gertie
He lived on up 2 or 3 more houses south. His dad is another. A lot of plumbers then, I guess.
Well, and then the Prices.
Yeah, there's the next block.
Yeah, they was between Turner and High Street,
Right.
weren't they?
yeah, Bob and what was his wife?
Frank,
Frank.
Yeah.
Bob,
Frank and Bob.
and Bill, and Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, they.
But I can't get over how many little grocery stores that you can drive around.
One on every corner.
Well, up there at Weller or Delaware, there was Womick's on the east side there, on the northeast corner.
I don't remember it.
And I was a kid, and you'd go up there, and then you come down, and you had Messerly's across the street.
Yeah, I remember Messerly.
And then there was a guy there where the liquor or the beer joint is there now on the other side, and his name was Long, had one in there when I was a kid. And then you had Comstocks,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then Claxton's there that bought it from your
Yeah,
folks.
yeah.
It was
Claxton
still a
went in.
grocery store and
Yeah.
all.
Yeah,
In
kind of a drug. He turned it
Yeah.
into a drugstore.
And then, well, you went on down Kearney Street, and there was one down there at
East
on
Avenue,
the south
sorry.
side. Yeah,
East Avenue
Kite leaders.
down there.
yeah, right on the south side. I think they tore that building down. And I mean, you know, there was just, what was funny though, my dad, you know, was in the grocery business, and you could say something to him about one, and he could tell you, you'd say, oh, at the corner of so-and-so, well, that's whoever it is, or there was one down there at East Avenue in Dale. He said, well, that's Nemo, and the one across the street. And I mean, he could just name them things off, even years after they were gone, he'd remember them, you know.
Yeah, that was.
I remember when I got back from the war, I was going to go to work in the grocery store. And my dad showed me, I said, what are all these books in here? You know, he kept, where the people hadn't paid him. And all those account books. Well, everybody lost his, first, the Frisco fire, a bunch of people.
Laid them off.
Follises laid them off.
Big strike they had.
And everybody was trading, well, they'd go to one grocery store and get all they could before the man cut them off. The owners cut them off, and then to go just one block up the street and start another account up there, you know. But, you know, and when I got back, well, I was going to take all those accounts that Dad had up there, and I said, I'm going to go get the...
Going to collect on it.
And collect for them, Dad. He says, over my dead body, you'll collect for them. He says, you just leave them there. You know, practically every one of those people that owed him come back in and paid him.
That's amazing.
Took them a long time to do it. They were out of jobs.
Sure.
They finally got a job. They come back and they'd pay a little bit at a time, but they'd keep coming in and paying a little bit till they got that bill paid for.
Yeah, my mom's dad had a grocery store over there between Jefferson and Benton on Atlantic. He built it, and they lived there on the corner, and he put a grocery store in there. And when he died, we took a box out and burnt it. The people that still owed him money, like you're saying, it was them little old deals with the carbon in them. And like you say, he wouldn't let you.
No.
He worked at the railroad and had that grocery store, and them guys would get laid off, and they'd come in there, and
he'd feed them.
But you couldn't do that with gas, could you?
No.
I used to put a little pile of them out on the drive and burn in the tag. Charge papers.
Really?
After so long, I just...
So you let them charge gas?
No, I didn't let them charge it the second time.
Not the second time. Just the first time. I remember when I was first driving, you could say $2 until the tank is full, whichever comes first. Now $2 won't get your car started.
You can't get that for your lawnmower.
No. Half a gallon.
Yeah.
Half a gallon's $2. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, people just don't realize how it used to be.
And
well, like you was talking about, they'd come in and pay. People felt like their word was worth something. I mean, if they told you, I'll come in and pay it, they might be 5 years, but they'd come and do it eventually. But shoot, now then, why, a lot of them could care less.
Well, I don't know you can say that those were the good old days.
They were the old days anyway, weren't they?
The old days, I don't know how good they were. We used to have to go to the bathroom.
Outside in the middle of winter?
Well, yeah, we used to had a window up there in our bedroom, and we'd have to go on a paper up in that bedroom and throw it out the window, go out the next morning and pick it up and take it to the outside toilet.
Don't get me in on that, because I'd not ever done that.
Yeah, you didn't do
See, that was Don talking about it.
I did.
I used to climb down that rope, but Dad had there for a fire escape from the second story.
A rope was your fire escape?
Yeah, about a 1-inch rope, coiled around the bedstead, steel bedstead right at the window.
And you used that for other reasons? You used to use the rope?
No, we never did have to use it for getting out.
Not for a fire.
Not for a fire. Might use it to slip out the house a little bit.
Well, if you climbed out of it, did you sneak around and come back in the front door? You didn't climb back up, did you?
Rowden lived right across the street, and he had a big maple tree, and he had a limb that growed right up to his room, and he looked like a red fox squirrel just now.
Oh, rat, he was out running around. He wasn't supposed to be out.
Yeah,
Long time ago.
This was interesting. Was it the grocery, Eagleburger's grocery calendar of 1940?
Huh.
They used to, I guess, did you give those out every year to your customers?
Yeah, they did.
The telephone number was 3737.
That's exactly
Yeah.
that's what's on it. This is
1940.
3737.
Yeah.
That one is 40. I don't know what year this one is.
You see it, Tom?
There's glasses coming off.
That's cute. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
You was talking about that phone number, you know, that old Plymouth, well, you may not know, had it 100 years. That 37 Plymouth truck I got that belonged to Dunlap. That
Oh
was the
yeah, I remember
plumber.
I had the old Dunlap truck.
Yeah, the orange and black truck.
Yeah.
I've had it since 1972, and the number on the side of it is 755.
Is that right?
And what's funny, all the license, state license, on that truck. Well, in fact, he started business in the teens, and I've got his license plates because he kept them on his garage wall.
Yeah.
The last 3 digits on every one of them license plates is 755, and the city stickers. When you buy the city stickers and put them in the window,
Yeah.
every one of those city stickers had 755 on it.
Well.
He knew somebody downtown.
Yeah,
That's somebody.
yeah, right. You get the same number every year.
I had that from Dad's station.
Is that
Scraper. Eagleburger service station.
Station.
Dick? You were giving
Well,
souvenirs
it was
away.
really making money, wasn't it?
Got your name on it.
Well, now that's about
Well, I
$4.
can't
Yeah.
And you have to scrape it yourself.
UN6.
UN 69668. Tires, batteries, accessories, and anything else that you can imagine.
Well, you pulled in there, and you had, like you was saying, you put the rack was there next to the office,
Yeah.
and then the next one was the wash. Or well, there's nothing in there, and you washed in there and everything.
Yeah.
Just pulled the car in there if you didn't need to get it off the ground.
Remember Lloyd Latimer?
Yeah.
Lloyd was a nice fellow, you know. And he traded with us, and
Now, did he drove for what? Bread company or the milk company? Highlands.
I don't know, Tom. But I know he had a 47 Chevrolet, I believe it
Oh,
was.
I probably got more. I should have looked up.
And I was shooting dice back there in the corner of the station one day. And we forgot to put oil in his car after he drained it.
Yeah, just take that up.
The phone rang and he was up on the square and he said, I'm up here, my car's burned up, I ain't got a drop of oil in it. And I just had it in my place down there, grease and change oil on it.
So you dropped the dice and went and got the car?
Oh yeah. Got his car and brought it to that old boy was a Chevrolet mechanic up on
Tell that that's in front of the station or what.
Taylor Street. Davis, I believe was his name.
Now, is this in the station?
Actually, that may have been at
That's the grocery
Claxton's.
store.
He may have been at Claxton's when that was taken. I don't know.
It looks like it. I believe it is.
Got
at
some
I
shelves.
believe it is at Claxton's because that looks like there's some soda glasses or something.
That's
Coke
kind of what
glasses.
I thought when I looked at it.
Is that something over
Should
here,
get
Randy?
Yeah, it says Highland Ice Cream or
Yeah.
so yeah, that's, I
Hey, is
Yeah,
that your
that was
phone?
the
No, that's
Helen.
back bar there.
Helen's
Yeah.
phone.
On the west side.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
call you back, okay? Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah. Cause I used to stop there every day
Betty Gray.
coming home from school and get a Coke.
There's old Smiley himself.
Yeah.
That's when you had good teeth. Didn't
Yeah. I still got him.
you? Still got the same one?
Yeah.
He's got me beat.
Yeah, look at them. Won't hurt anything. Let's see. Do I have anything else in here?
If anybody's thirsty, just speak up. I'll be glad
Thank
to
you.
furnish a thirst something.
You got something that's not alcoholic?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a little of that.
Non-alcoholic.
I'll have a little of that.
Water, pop, and tea. That's the best it can be.
Tea is fine.
According to
have
my
some.
doctor, you should only drink water.
Well, yes, but no, what fun is that?
I told him, I said, you go in to eat and you order a glass of water, they think you're cheap. He said,
Yeah,
I don't care
right.
what they think of me.
Not indeed. I'm just exactly right. Well, you usually get that glass of water and have some lemon, you know, you can squeeze some
Exactly.
lemon in it and then take a couple of packets of sugar, sweeten it up a little bit.
Oh,
That works pretty good. They don't charge much
he's
for that.
convinced you need to just drink straight water.
Yeah.
See, and I just switched doctors then.
Well, I don't have to worry. I only keep one about every 2 years and they quit or something.
Helen don't go to a lot of trouble with
I
that.
won't, but I'll just be glad to. I just didn't know about it.
You know, we're welcoming any thing you can contribute to.
Will you have anything, Tommy, or
No, I'm fine.
I'll give you water, plain water.
No, I'm doing good.
How about you?
I'm fine,
Would you
thanks.
like
No,
something?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
How about you, sir? Dad?
No, I'll
Pretty
take
cheap.
mine later.
Penny?
You know, there was he was talking about
That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's peach.
how many colored people were in there. There was the Jarretts and the Hanks and the Fergusons and what was Marie's last Lang
Yeah,
Old Lang.
and Mary Lang.
Mary Marie.
Yeah, and then there was Pete Manier.
Yeah.
He worked at the Buick agency all his life, washing cars. And see what he married one of the Ferguson girls. But they was a different bunch from them down there around Silver Springs. There's a bowl colored, but they wasn't as good of people, highest grade of people. Pardon me. But they were all nice people.
Those Hanks really became pretty popular, didn't they? Like New York.
I don't
Those
know
girls.
what happened to them
Those Hanks
after they
girls, I don't know.
scattered. On Nat, I know he got a job shining shoes down there, downtown on Jefferson
Oh.
Street down there. Man, he could make that rag pop. You get out of his stand, man. Those shoes just cast a light, you know. He really had one.
We've got about 7 minutes left on
Okay.
media.
Well, let's see, what can we use up 7 minutes on?
We can sing something.
Sing something. Oh, you don't want that. Although I used to lead the singing in Dale Street Church.
Yeah.
That was back in the days when
Several-
everybody gathered in the auditorium there, where all the seats were, and they had a
Sunday school.
Sunday school where everybody sang songs. songs, and I got to lead those. Couldn't sing couldn't tell a note from anything, but I knew the words.
Well, you'd probably be a popular singer now. Because there's a lot of them don't seem to
Know the words.
know the words or
have
know
words.
the notes.
Sure. You can't go wrong with Jesus Loves Me.
I don't know if you got that picture.
Yeah, Dale Street, that was, I remember the old church.
Oh, yeah.
Sat out there next to the street, and then
Yeah.
they built that new one
Mhm.
kinda around it,
Yeah.
tore the old one down.
Well, they built that Family Life Center since then, though. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
about
Oh.
20 years ago we built that.
Yeah.
And now it's not called Dale Street anymore.
Oh.
Well, when I go by, it's still Dale Street.
Yeah.
And Tyndall's Drugstore, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, it was.
You'll remember that.
Yeah, I remember Tyndall's Drug, and I remember, you know, that used to be City Service Station across the street from it there on the
Oh,
other
yeah,
National on the southwest corner.
Right.
You remember High Street Church
Oh, yeah.
when they were still over there? That was their service center for all their church buses.
I don't remember that.
And I worked with a guy at the railroad, and his dad was a deacon at High Street. And one of them buses, somebody left it in neutral, and it rolled out of that lot and went over and run through the south wall of Tyndall Drug. And High Street had to buy all the liquor on the south wall of that
that
church
right?
or that drugstore there. And he laughed. He thought that was funny. He said, "Now, how you gonna put that in the books?" I forget how many hundreds of dollars of liquor that bus broke when it went through the wall.
Yeah, we used to
That's
get
when it was cheap even.
money for, there was a league, they called a league, it was young people's meeting,
Epworth League.
Epworth League, and used to go to church
Evening service.
to the Epworth League meeting, we would slip out and go down there to Tyndall's and play the slot machine. Not slot machines, but what do they call
Pinball machine.
Pinball?
them? Pinball machines. Yeah, you play all day for a nickel.
If you were any good.
Yeah.
Well, if you shifted it, just,
Yes, that. Yes,
just a little bit.
Without tilting.
Well, I can tell you a story about that. When I was in high school, one of the guys I knew worked at the station over there across from Thomas's on Benton.
Oh, yeah.
And me and another guy'd go in there, and we'd put a nickel in the pinball machine, and then you could take, once you got it on, the deal you hit to get the extra games. We had a coat hanger you could stick through there and trip that deal. And the old boy worked in there, said the guy that owned the station and the guy that run from the amusement company come in there, and he told him, he said, "I do not understand how a pinball machine can be as worn out as this one is."
It only has two
Said
nickels in
that thing
it.
don't make enough money to do anything. He said, "What's the deal?" He said, "You must have some of the best pinball players," because he said it won't make a quarter a week. Yeah, they just. Well, I want to thank you guys for taking
Well,
time to.
appreciate you
Hey,
all coming down and
Well, thank you. It was fun.
taking your time.
Well, talking to you, I remembered several things I'd forgot that was even up and down Kearney Street there, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Light Wine, Holloway's
Yeah,
machine
garage,
shop there,
yeah.
and garage.
Right.
How about Kearney's grocery?
You know, that
Yeah.
was Whis Lightwine and his boy that worked there, and Frank Holloway and Paul then
Yeah.
was the boy. And finally, Holloway's just, well, those light wines almost got all killed off
Well,
in a car
the
wreck.
boy, Dean, the youngest one, my age, he got killed, and his dad out here on 13.
Yeah, that's what I'm
The
talking
4th
about.
of July. What was it? Marjorie? That was her, Dean's mother, wasn't it? Marjorie Lightwatch?
Yeah, Marjorie.
Marty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it killed, well, what was,
Well, it killed about 4 of them
yeah,
out of that one family.
It
That
was
was,
Dean and his dad. What was his dad's name? Marjorie, and what was her husband?
Whis, we called him, but his name was
Virgil? No? Virgil Whiteman?
no. Aaron was Whis's nickname.
No, Whiz was the nickname, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, they lived up there
Aaron
on
was the real
Rogers.
name.
yeah.
That rock house right there.
But we are at time.
Okay, we're done.
Well, thank you.
You all can keep talking all you want.
Okay, all right.
I wish you guys would get the hell out of here so I can get me something
You
to
can
eat.
say whatever you want to now.
Yeah,